Hey there, for this video I've made a roughly 132 scale railing for a little porch that I've got on my abandoned manor. I spent about a week procrastinating trying to get out of making it because I knew I had to make it, and it's one of the fiddliest, most annoying jobs you can do is making something like railings, because they're just so small and they have to be exact. And if you've ever done it, you know how painful it can be. And after a long time of thinking about it, I managed to come up with this idea that I've got in this tutorial, and I will be building many buildings now with railings because this is so easy. And even though my example is a little rough, it's brilliant. I'm saying that because I'm really excited that I've come up with something so simple for such a fiddly building problem. So I hope you get something out of this, and I hope you enjoy the video. I'm just using a sheet of balsa wood that's 1 mil in thickness, and I've measured my height by using a popsicle stick to save me actually having to measure, because it was very close to the height that I want for my railings. I just give it a very gentle cut with my knife. I probably could have sanded this to make it a little neater, but I didn't bother, as usual. And I use a very rough looking matchstick and glue it on top with some super glue. And that's my top railing. Then I'm just going to use a craft knife, and as neatly as possible, this is a bit rough, it was difficult so close to the camera, but as neat as you can. And this is probably about 1/2 mil in thickness, each one of these little cuts, and just do them as vertical as possible. I'm not applying much pressure to this, but yeah, it slipped through because of the grain. If you use the grain of the wood, it works itself out with the vertical cuts on this. And I just did a little measurement along the top because I wanted to cut each one of these little pieces, every second one out, and I just wanted to make sure I wasn't going up and down too much, trying to keep it as tidy as possible. Because it's so small, I was struggling to see what I was doing. Just trying to keep myself in check with this. It really is a very, very small piece of work. Some of these are a little too thin, some are a little too thick. It's not the end of the world because you can tidy it up a little once you're done. And just keep going, and just the grain will just naturally split as you score along it, and it works itself out pretty nicely. And then every second one of these, I'm going to just drop down the tip of the blade of this knife. You got to be careful that you don't go all the way through. You just basically want to mark it, because you're going to end up chopping off more than you should. You want every second one. So yeah, just really squint hard for this one. This was messing with my eyes and my head trying to do it, but once you get the rhythm going, it's not too bad. And then once you've done that, you can just gently push each second one through, the one that you have, obviously cut, and then they just pop out like little teeth. Geez, I was excited when I came up with this. I didn't even know it would work, but I was very happy it did. Though you've got to be a little cautious because, as you know, balsa wood is quite fragile, but that's what the little matchstick on the top and then the bottom is for, to stabilise it, to stop the little teeth from breaking once you've cut them. So before I go tidying it up now, I'm just going to attach another matchstick to the bottom of it with some super glue, so it'll make it nice and as strong as possible. I used super glue instead of a wood glue, not only for almost instant drying time, but also because there's less bulk with the super glue, and because this is so small, you don't want bulk of glue sticking out on it anywhere if you can avoid it. And that's the bottom rail glued on. And now I can tidy it up. As you can see, it's quite uneven, especially on the back, but the back is not really going to be seen if it's, on a porch or something. For the tidy up, I'm using a toothpick, and I'm just going to really gently just push it against the top. It's almost like foam the way when you push it against the balsa, and it just shapes it into a nice neat little arch. You've got to be gentle but firm. You'll get the feel for it when you do it, but it really, really tidies it up. And I didn't spend much time on this. If I was doing this on a slightly larger scale, say a 1/24, I would have worked a lot harder to make it a lot tidier. But I'm using this for a dilapidated building, so I wasn't that fussed. But you could make this beautifully neat if you really just sat down and put some more time into it. You could probably make quite a few little patterns and things along it if you got a little more creative than I've done as well. Mine is super basic, but as you can see, this is the easiest thing you could go for when it comes to making a small railing. So yeah, drop it in a bit of black brown wash. I do this because if you go throwing paint onto stuff, it's going to bulk it out and you're going to lose your scale, or you're going to lose your detail. This will just stain the wood, and it will help accentuate the grain once I put a little dry brush on it. I also stained up some matchsticks that I'm going to use just for the posts. This is so basic, it's unbelievably simple. I just love it. And you can see where it's going. It's already looking a lot more sophisticated than the very simple thing that it is. This is one I made as my prototype, and I realised that I had made it just a little too big for my building. It's closer to a 1/24, or probably somewhere in between a 1/24 and a 1/32. It just looked so slightly wrong, so I had to make it smaller. But the good thing is you could make these any size, and of course the bigger it is, the neater it's going to look. But the beauty is that you can make it really, really tiny, and that's where the great part of this comes into it. And I'm just going to do a dry brush on the bigger one just so it's easier for you to see, and you can see the dry brush in the grain. The dry brush. It's so heavy, it's not really a dry brush, but yeah. You can see that just that one little coat is all I'm going to do, so it looks like peeling paint. You can see the grain of the wood, which gives it scale and makes it look just like a real, genuine, tiny wooden railing. Always just keep it simple. The less paint is often the better. Slapping on layers of paint is going to make things, out of whack for you. So just always keep it simple. Less is more. And so you can see that's it. That's how easy this was to do. And it just really, I really am so happy with this. I mean, I would definitely neaten it up on a different building, but now that I've discovered it, I'm going to be doing this all the time for buildings. I made this kind of, corrugated flap to sit on top just so you could see how it's going to look later, but I don't know if I'm going to keep it that way. I might just make some shingles on a roof, but as you can see, that's how it looks. I'm really happy with it. I'm just so happy that it was so easy, and I hope that you got something from this. And I would love to know anyone who, if you make this, how you went with it, because yeah, it's a good one. I really do hope you found this a useful tutorial, and I hope to see you next time.